You do not need to strive, to beg, or to convince the world of your worth. The moment you assume your desire to be real, you are walking through a door that no man can shut. This is the power of the unseen realm, the kingdom within you. What appears to be locked to the senses is already open in the spirit. And when you dare to believe in that unseen door, when you walk by inner sight instead of outer evidence, God responds. Not a distant God, but the presence within you, your own wonderful I am. You do not move doors by effort. You move them by knowing. The door swings open the moment you assume the state of already having walked through it. The world may say, it's impossible, but the world is merely the echo of yesterday's beliefs. It cannot bind what God has already loosed. It cannot close what God has opened within you. There is no need to force anything. The door is not held shut by man's opinion, by circumstance, or by delay. It is only your own consciousness that opens or shuts it. If you feel yourself to be unworthy, the door remains closed. Not by judgment, but by your own refusal to see yourself as God sees you. But when you rise in awareness, when you say inwardly, I am already what I long to be, then the door appears. And not only appears, but swings open in a way that confounds reason. You are not waiting on the door. The door is waiting on you, waiting on your recognition, your identification, your willingness to feel the reality of what is unseen. And when you do, you will find that no one, no system, no limitation, no voice of doubt can close what has been opened in spirit. God does not consult the opinions of others to open a path for you. It is done in silence, in stillness, in the hidden chamber of your own being. Others may not understand it. They may wonder how, or why, or through whom, but you will know. You will know that it was not by might, not by power, but by the inner awareness of I am. All things in this world are shadows, cast by the light of your inner assumption. If the shadow is blocked, do not wrestle with it. Turn back to the light within. Assume the door is open now. Walk through it in imagination. Live from the end. Feel it done. And the shadow will rearrange itself. The outer world will catch up with the inner knowing. What was once denied will become undeniable. This is the mystery that the door was never really closed to begin with. It only appeared shut while you doubted your inheritance. But the moment you remember who you are, the Divine One clothed in human form, the door opens and you pass through, untouched by opposition. Assumption opens doors. This truth, so simple and yet so profound, is the cornerstone of all transformation. When you assume something to be real, you are not merely imagining it as a hopeful fantasy. You are placing yourself in the state of fulfillment. You are stepping into the dimension where that reality already exists. It is not a matter of hoping or wishing. It is a matter of knowing and living from the end. The assumption is the act of faith, the movement of inner being toward what is already yours in spirit. And once you make that assumption and abide in it, the outer world must conform. It has no choice. It is clay in the hands of the potter, and your inner state is the potter. The world you see is not fixed, it is fluid. It is not permanent, it is shaped and reshaped by your thoughts, your feelings, and above all, your assumptions. Whatever you accept as true of yourself begins to manifest in your experience. So when you assume that the door is open, you are not waiting for a sign, you are creating the sign, you are generating the movement. You are activating the invisible power of God within you. You are becoming the living testimony of the unseen law that governs all things. People often ask, how do I know if the assumption is working? But that question reveals the absence of true assumption. For when you truly assume something, you no longer question it. You no longer look for evidence or validation. You walk in the knowing. You move as one who has already received. Your thoughts, your words, your actions begin to align with the reality you have chosen. And in that alignment, things shift. The locked doors creak open, the barriers dissolve, the delays evaporate, not because the world changed on its own, but because you changed the premise. You cannot dwell in the consciousness of lack and expect abundance to pour in. You cannot linger in the vibration of rejection and believe love will flood your life. You must go there first in awareness. You must feel it real. You must sit in the house before you have the keys. You must laugh in the joy before the promise manifests. For the universe responds not to your need, but to your state. And your state is governed by your assumption. Assumption is not passive. It is a creative act. It is the doorway to divine manifestation. When God opens a door, it is not by external force. It is by internal realization. The moment you accept that the thing you desire is already yours, you have moved into alignment with it. You have entered the state. And from that state all things must flow. This is the hidden mechanism of every miracle, every breakthrough, every answered prayer. It is not the prayer that moves mountains. It is the faith embedded in the assumption behind the prayer. When you pray as one who already possesses the answer, you are no longer asking. You are declaring. You are affirming the truth of your being. You are claiming your divine inheritance. To assume is to trust the unseen more than the seen. It is to believe in the invisible structure of reality more than the shifting sands of circumstance. And yet that is the great challenge, because the senses scream for evidence. The mind demands proof. The world whispers, wait and see. But the spirit knows. Believe and you will see. The assumption precedes the fact. The inner act creates the outer result. What you assume becomes your atmosphere. It surrounds you. It radiates from you. It becomes the field through which all things filter. You cannot hold an assumption and not see its reflection. Eventually, in the mirror of your life, some reflections may be instant. Others may take time. But time is irrelevant to the law. Time is merely the unfolding of what is already done in the invisible. And so, assume the best. Assume the door is not just open, but welcoming. Assume the path is already prepared, the answer already sent, the way already cleared. Let that assumption fill your mind in the quiet moments. Let it walk with you, speak through you, breathe in you, become the embodiment of that reality. Don't wait for confirmation, be the confirmation. The moment you do, you will feel the shift. A calm confidence will settle in. A sense of ease will arise. You will stop striving because you will know it is already done. To assume is to co-create with God. It is to partner with the power that formed the stars. That power is not waiting in the clouds, it is resting in your own awareness. And when you awaken to it, when you assume from the end rather than chase the means, everything begins to unfold with grace. The doors you thought were sealed forever swing open without effort. Not by logic, not by hustle, not by strategy, but by the silent knowing that it was already yours. Assumption is not delusion. It is divine alignment. It is not pretending. It is perceiving. It is not hoping. It is knowing. And that knowing, once accepted, rewrites the script of your reality. You cannot assume greatness and continue to live in smallness. You cannot assume favor and still walk in fear. Something must shift, and that something is always you. Now let us move into the second truth, one that is the natural extension of the first, inner sight over outer evidence. This is the realm where true power resides. For the moment you give more authority to what you see within than to what you see without, you have transcended the limitations of this world. You have tapped into the source of all creation. Inner sight is vision born of spirit. It does not need facts. It does not require support. It does not lean on what is currently visible. It looks through the veil. It sees the invisible as more real than the visible. And that is why it can create what the senses call impossible. It is not bound by the appearances of today. It is guided by the promise of eternity. Outer evidence will often contradict your inner knowing. It will say, this is your truth. But your inner vision says, no, this is only the shadow of a former belief. I have seen the truth, and the truth is greater than this moment. You must choose then which sight you will follow. Will you follow the outer report or the inner revelation? To walk by inner sight is to live in faith, not in fantasy, but in fidelity to the unseen. It is to place more weight on your imagination than on your circumstances. It is to believe that what you see within, when fully felt and accepted, will eventually clothe itself in form. The world may laugh, the critics may scoff, even your own mind may rebel. But if you remain true to that inner sight, you will see it come to pass. It is the dreamer who shapes the world, not the realist. The realist can only repeat what already is, but the one who lives by inner vision breaks the cycle. They pull tomorrow into today. They live in what is to come, and because of that, they cause it to come. They do not wait for the door to open. They see it open in their inner world, and the outer must obey. There is no greater gift than to see clearly within, for what you see within is the blueprint of what shall be. Guard it, treasure it, nourish it. Let no voice shake you from it. The world will tell you to be practical, to be cautious, to adjust to facts. But remember, all facts were once dreams. All reality was once imagination. All that is seen was born in the unseen. When you walk by inner sight, your confidence is not rooted in outcomes but in identity. You are not swayed by results. You are led by revelation. You know who you are, and from that knowing you see what is yours. You see the door open not because it is honed yet in the physical, but because you have seen it so clearly within that. You cannot be denied. That vision becomes your compass, your anchor, your source of peace. And what happens when you live this way? Reality bends, people appear, opportunities align, coincidences increase. But these are not signs to start believing. They are results of your believing. You don't believe because things happen. Things happen because you believe. You don't wait to see before you accept. You accept and then you see. So continue to lift your inner sight above outer evidence. Continue to walk through the doors you see in spirit, even if the hallway is still dark. Trust that what is formed within will take form without. Know that your faith is never wasted. The seed of vision will grow. The dream, when nurtured by inner sight, will become substance. The invisible will become visible. And the door once imagined as open will soon be open in truth. Consciousness determines access. This is the divine law that governs all movement in your world. There are no locked doors to the one who knows who they are. There is no barrier that can hold back the soul that has awakened to its true state. Whatever you are conscious of being, you draw to yourself not because the world chooses to give it, but because your own awareness allows it. You cannot access a reality that you are not aligned with in consciousness. You may desire it, admire it, even envy it, but until you become it inwardly, it remains beyond your reach. Not because it is being denied to you, but because you are not yet dwelling in the vibration of that state. This is not punishment. It is precision. Life mirrors the arrangement of your own awareness. It is the outpicturing of your innermost beliefs. Whatever you are willing to accept as true of yourself becomes the filter through which all experience flows. And so if you believe you are unworthy, the door may be open, but you will not walk through it. If you feel disqualified in your own soul, you will see obstacles where none exist. If you carry the vibration of not enough, then even when opportunity knocks, you will turn it away unknowingly. But if you rise in consciousness, if you choose a new identity, if you assume a new posture inwardly, then the same door that once seemed shut will swing wide with ease. Not because it suddenly changed, but because you did. The external world is fixed only to the one who refuses to shift within. But when you alter your awareness, when you claim your divine access, when you embody the feeling of already having passed through the threshold, then the world rearranges itself accordingly. Every level of consciousness carries its own set of permissions. In a lower state, you are limited by fear, by logic, by habit. But when you ascend to a higher awareness, when you say, I am not what I used to be, I am what I choose to be, then you grant yourself access to higher outcomes. The elevation of your consciousness is the opening of your world. You do not need to manipulate the door. You do not need to fight against the lock. You only need to shift into the state where it is already open. That state exists. That version of you already walks freely through it. And when you step into that version of yourself, by feeling, imagining, accepting, and knowing, then you no longer wait for the door to open. You realize it was open all along, waiting on your awareness to catch up. This is why some people succeed with ease, while others struggle for years. It is not because one is more favored, more gifted, or more connected. It is because one has aligned their inner self with the outcome, while the other is still trying to force it from a place of lack. What you are conscious of being becomes what you experience. Not eventually, immediately in spirit, and then inevitably in form. So ask yourself, what am I conscious of right now? Am I conscious of being outside the blessing, or am I conscious of being inside the promise? Am I thinking as one who is still trying to find the way in, or as one who has already entered? Your answers will reveal the doors you are currently standing before. Your awareness is the key. Not your effort, not your strategy, not even your prayers, unless your prayers are filled with the knowing that it is already yours. People wait for access as if it is granted by others. They wait for permission, validation, recognition. But access is never given by man. It is claimed by spirit. You do not need someone else to open the way. You are the way. The inner state you choose becomes the outer path. You are not subject to chance or fate. You are subject to consciousness. Your life expands to match the quality of your awareness. This is the liberating truth. You are not stuck because the world is against you. You are only ever stuck in a state of mind. But the moment you shift, the moment you choose a new assumption, a new identity, a new feeling, then what seemed far becomes near. What was blocked becomes clear. What was delayed is delivered, because nothing is kept from you that you have already accepted within. And so, access is a matter of being. Become what you seek. Dwell in the feeding of your answered prayer. Let your imagination lead you past the threshold. Close your eyes to appearances and open your inner eye to what is already yours. As you sustain that vision, as you remain faithful to that state, the world will yield. The doors will respond. For they were never really locked, they were waiting on you to remember who you are. No force, only knowing. This is the gentle yet invincible principle of manifestation. The world will tell you that you must hustle, strive, and push to make things happen. But the soul knows better. The soul knows that true creation is not born of effort, but of alignment. You do not need to break doors down when you know they are already open. You do not need to struggle your way forward when you realize you are already there in spirit. All force is resistance, disguised. But knowing, pure, silent, confident knowing is the greatest power there is. Knowing is not intellectual certainty. It is not the mind analyzing every outcome. It is the still, inner awareness that says, this is done. It is the inner rest that comes when you are no longer asking if it will happen, but when you are simply walking as one for whom it already has. This knowing doesn't come from books or teachings or opinions. It comes from a connection to the divine presence within you. The same presence that declares the end from the beginning, that calls things that are not as though they are. You know in your spirit what is already yours. The moment you feel that inner shift, the moment you enter the vibration of completion, then all striving ceases. You do not need to explain, prove, or persuade. You do not need to convince yourself or others. You simply abide in that quiet assurance. You speak from it, walk in it, live out of it. And from that knowing, everything begins to gather itself around you in harmony. Force tries to create from the outside in, but knowing allows from the inside out. One drains you, the other fills you. One leads to frustration, the other to fulfillment. When you force, you operate from the belief that the door is closed, that you are separate from what you want, that you must earn or chase or conquer. But when you know, you understand that there is no separation. You are already one with the thing you desire. The door is not ahead of you, it is in you. Let go of the need to prove yourself. Let go of the need to struggle. Just know that what is for you is already unfolding. Know that the invisible has more substance than the visible. Know that your assumption carries the creative power of God. The more you know, the less you need to do, not in laziness, but in alignment. Action may come, but it will be effortless, inspired, full of peace and power, not driven by fear or pressure. To live from knowing is to become magnetic. Doors will open without effort. People will show up without pursuit. Opportunities will arrive without strain, because everything is responding to the vibration of your inner state. When you know, your world knows. When you rest in the certainty of your I am, creation flows with you, not against you. Do not underestimate the stillness of knowing. It may appear inactive to the outside world, but in the unseen realm, it is moving mountains. It is drawing the perfect outcome. It is collapsing time. Knowing does more in one moment than striving can do in a lifetime. For knowing is the language of God. It is the song of creation. It is the state that speaks without words and commands without force. You do not need to fight your way through life. You only need to know your way into the next dimension. And the only way to know, truly know, is to feel it real, to assume the state, to sit with the desire until it becomes a reality within you. That is the true act of faith. Not hoping, not wishing, but knowing, and in that knowing the door opens, the world responds, and the promise becomes flesh. Delay is not denial. The nature of divine timing is not always visible to the natural mind, and yet it is perfect in every dimension. When you plant a seed, you do not rush out the next day to dig it up and demand a harvest. You understand there is a process, an invisible unfolding that takes place beneath the soil. So it is with your inner assumptions. When you accept something as already done in consciousness, the outer world responds, but often not according to your schedule. This is not because the promise has been denied. It is because the fruit is still forming. Many abandon their vision at the edge of its manifestation because they mistake time for rejection. But what you think is a delay is often the sacred space where God is perfecting the way. There are movements, orchestrations, unseen arrangements coming into alignment, not only in the world around you, but in your own heart. You are being prepared to carry the thing you've assumed. You are being shaped for the very outcome you believe is already yours. Patience is not passivity. It is powerful trust. It is the ability to remain in the state of the wish fulfilled, even when nothing yet appears to support it. To persist in the assumption is to walk by inner knowing, not outer confirmation. Delay does not weaken the law. It tests your fidelity to the unseen. Will you remain in the truth of your inner world, or will you return to the illusion of lack? This is where the spiritual muscle is formed. The promise is not waiting on the world, it is waiting on you to remain aligned. The moment you waver, you re-enter the state of not having, and so the delay stretches. Not because it is punishment, but because the universe is simply responding to your shift in state. But when you hold fast, when you keep seeing, feeling, knowing that it is done, then all things begin to bend toward you. You remain in the vibration of the answered prayer, and the form follows. There is no such thing as unanswered faith. The thing you ask for in spirit has already been given. The moment you accept it, it is done. But your awareness must remain firm. The journey from assumption to manifestation is often a test of endurance, not effort, but stability. Can you stay unmoved while the world remains unchanged? Can you keep praising while the evidence is silent? This is the inner posture that separates the awakened from the anxious. Some blessings take time because they are layered with meaning. They involve not just your own unfolding, but the movement of others. The universe is not linear. It works through divine intersections, perfect sequences, and infinite intelligence. The person you are meant to meet, the door you are meant to walk through, the provision you are meant to receive, it is all forming even now. And if you could see the invisible matrix being woven on your behalf, you would never doubt again. You would praise during the wait as fervently as you do in the manifestation. Do not curse the delay. It is not a wall. It is a womb. Something is growing in you and for you. The desire you assumed is not idle. It is active in spirit, preparing to clothe itself in form. But just as no flower blooms before its time, no door opens before you are fully aligned with its energy. You cannot walk through what you have not matured to carry. Stay faithful in the invisible. Speak as though it is already done. Act in harmony with your assumption. Do not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season always due. You shall reap if you faint not. The season is not set by the calendar. It is set by your unwavering awareness. Delay is never denial. It is the divine pause between planting and harvest. It is the space where your inner world is proven. It is the sacred hallway before the door opens. And when it does, it will be worth every second of believing. Spirit opens what man cannot shut. There is a higher authority than circumstance. There is a greater force than logic, permission, or earthly power. What is decreed in spirit must come to pass, no matter what opposition rises against it. When God opens a door, no man can shut it. Not because they don't try, but because their effort is rendered powerless by the sovereignty of divine law. You must understand that spirit governs matter. The inner governs the outer. The cause is never in the visible. The source of all movement is in the unseen. When you align yourself with the divine will, with the I am within you, with the awareness of your fulfilled desire, you are partnering with the same power that orders the stars. No human resistance can override that alignment. No system, no opinion, no circumstance can block what has been affirmed in spirit. This is not metaphor. This is spiritual law. Doors do not open because of luck or coincidence. They open because of consciousness. When you dwell in the state of the open door, the outer must reflect it. It is not optional. The world has no choice but to mirror the image held in your inner eye. And if that image is sustained, if that assumption becomes your dwelling place, then even if 1,000 no's come before, the yes must arrive. The world may shut doors, but it cannot shut what has been opened in the realm of spirit. You may face resistance, setbacks, delays, but if your inner vision remains firm, those very obstacles will turn into stepping stones. What was meant to block you will end up blessing you, for the divine power in you is not reacting, it is creating. It does not ask permission. It does not require votes. It moves as it wills, and nothing can stop it. Stop giving so much power to people, to systems, to appearances. They are shadows, not sources. The true authority is within you. When you know this, you walk differently. You no longer beg for doors to open. You thank God that they are already open. You no longer fear what man can do. You rest in what Spirit has already done. Man may shut a door in your face. They may reject you, ignore you, overlook you. But if you know that the door is open in Spirit, you will walk until it manifests. And when it does, it will open in such a way that all will know. It was not man who made the way. It was the divine in you. You will say, "This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in my eyes." There is a peace that comes when you realize the open door is not a wish, but a reality in Spirit. You stop striving. You stop chasing. You align. You rest. You trust. And from that trust, power flows. The world responds. That job, that relationship, that healing, that breakthrough. It arrives not because you forced it, but because you matched it. You became the version of yourself for whom that door is naturally open. Let them doubt. Let them resist. Let them try to shut what you know is open. It cannot be undone, for the word has gone forth from Spirit, and it will not return void. It will accomplish the thing for which it was sent. You are not waiting on permission. You are walking in promise. Lift your head. Straighten your spine. Stand in the dignity of one who knows the door is already open. Not will be already. Not maybe surely. Because the Spirit that formed you also formed the way before you. And that way is clear, even if you can't yet see it. That path is secure, even if your feet haven't reached it. That opportunity is yours, even if others try to take credit or block your entry. Spirit opens. Man cannot shut. So move in confidence. Speak with clarity. Act with assurance. Not arrogance, but divine knowing. Not pride, but prophetic certainty. You are not creating the door. You are discovering it. You are not forcing it open. You are aligning with its already open state in Spirit. And the more you believe this, the more you see it. For what you behold in your awareness becomes the shape of your experience. Spirit opens what man cannot shut. Let that truth anchor you. Let it steady you in the waiting. Let it embolden you in the face of opposition. You are not at the mercy of this world. You are governed by something greater, and that greater force has gone before you to make the crooked places straight, the rough paths smooth, and the impossible inevitable. When the world says no, God still says yes. And the yes of God is not like the yes of man. It does not come with conditions or loopholes. It is absolute, eternal, and creative. It does not bow to circumstances or wait for the approval of others. When Spirit has affirmed a thing in your life, it is already complete. The world may delay it, doubt it, deny it, but it cannot undo it. You were not created to live by the opinions of people. You were created to walk by the authority of Spirit. There are moments in your life when everything around you will contradict the truth within you. Doors will be closed in your face. People will overlook you, misunderstand you, label you. But if you have heard the whisper of God in your spirit, if you've seen the end in your imagination, if you felt the promise in your soul, then their no cannot cancel your yes. Rejection does not stop the assignment. Delay does not erase the vision. Your destiny is not fragile. It is fixed. What has been spoken in spirit cannot be broken in time. But many forfeit their future because they listen too closely to the world's report. They forget that the outer is merely a shadow of the inner. They allow the no of man to eclipse the yes of God. They settle for less because they assume the door is closed permanently, when in truth it was only locked to the version of themselves that still believed in limitation. The moment you rise in consciousness, the moment you say, "I am more than this, I am what God has declared," then the door that seemed sealed begins to open. Do not shrink back when you are rejected. Rejection is not the end. It is often redirection. What feels like man's no may be God's protection. Sometimes the closed door is the mercy of the divine, sparing you from a path that does not align with your true nature. But if the desire still burns within you, if the vision keeps returning in your quiet hours, then know this: your yes is not lost. It is waiting on the version of you that can carry it without apology. You don't need man's yes when you have God's. You don't need their validation. You don't need their agreement. You need only to come into agreement with Spirit, to align your inner world with the promise you've received. And once that agreement is established, the world must adjust. Reality will bend to match your assumption, not because you demanded it, but because you became it. The yes of God does not show up with trumpets and signs. It whispers in your soul. It rests in your awareness. It pulls you forward with a quiet certainty that says, this belongs to you. And when you act from that place, not desperation, not striving, but still confident knowing, then what was closed opens, what was denied is restored, what was hidden is revealed. The yes of God moves through you, and everything changes. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stand in the face of man's no and declare, I still believe. Not with arrogance, but with spiritual resolve. Not out of ego, but out of divine remembrance. You were not created to live by rejection. You were created to live by revelation. And if the revelation has shown you the door is open, then keep walking, whether others see it or not. They may call you crazy. They may say it's impossible. They may try to convince you to settle, but your inner yes must be louder than their outer no. You don't need to argue. You don't need to prove anything. Just hold the vision. Feel it real. Let it become so alive in you that no external circumstance can shake it loose. Your persistence in that state is your agreement with God, and what is agreed upon in spirit must become manifest in time. This is how miracles are born. Not through struggle, but through agreement. Not through the cooperation of the world, but through the alignment of the self. You don't need everyone to say yes. You only need to say yes within yourself, to the call, to the vision, to the identity. Say yes to who you really are. Say yes to what Spirit has already completed. Say yes to the version of yourself that already lives beyond the rejection, the delay, beyond the no. That self is real. That version is you. Step into it and walk through the door as if it were never closed. You are not locked out of your promise. You are being invited into a higher state. The invitation doesn't come with flashing lights. It comes through stillness, through imagination, through the quiet certainty that says, I know who I am. The world may take a while to catch up, but that's not your concern. Stay faithful to your yes, and the world will align in time. And so we come to this great paradox. The door is both already open, and yet must be walked through by choice. Not a choice made once, but a continual decision to live from the end, to remain in the state of fulfillment, to assume the posture of already having received. Many desire the door to open, yet refuse to walk through it in spirit. They wait for evidence before they commit. But the law is clear. You must enter the state before the door reveals itself. You do not walk through the door physically until you have passed through it inwardly. The outer walk is just the echo of the inner crossing, the version of you that already lives in the promise, the version that already feels, believes, and sees from the end, must become your identity, not a distant possibility, but a living reality. You must assume that identity so deeply that your current conditions no longer have power to define you. This is the walk of faith, not blind hope, but conscious embodiment. You must feel yourself already on the other side. You must carry the emotion of fulfillment, the ease of arrival, the peace of possession. That is the walk. Not merely action, but assumption. Not mere movement, but identity. The door is not opened by effort, it is revealed by awareness. And the more you remain in the awareness of the open door, the more natural it becomes to walk through it. What does this walk look like? It looks like speaking from the end, not about the end. It looks like thanking before the thing arrives. It looks like acting in line with the person you have already become in spirit. It means refusing to react to appearances, refusing to lower your state to match the noise of doubt. It means becoming blind to delay, deaf to discouragement, and fully alive in the truth of your new self. Do not confuse activity with progress. You can run in circles and go nowhere. But a single step taken in the right state is more powerful than 1,000 actions taken in fear. Align first. Assume first. Walk inwardly through the door. Then watch as the outer unfolds in precision. The moment you become it, the path becomes clear. And as you walk, something sacred begins to happen. Your faith turns into knowing. Your waiting turns into being. You are no longer seeking the door. You are living in the room it leads to. You become a person who carries the atmosphere of fulfillment. You don't just talk about vision, you radiate it. You don't beg for opportunity, you attract it. Because you are no longer outside looking in. You are inside, and the world now reflects that. Every time you choose to remain in the state of the fulfilled desire, you walk through the door again. Every time you respond with trust instead of fear, gratitude instead of doubt. You affirm your new residence. You don't need to open the door once and for all. You need only to keep choosing the state where it is always open. This is not a moment of arrival. It is a way of being, a continual dwelling in the awareness of already having. That's what it means to walk through the door. It's not about being good enough. It's not about proving yourself. It's about remembering what is already yours and living like you've never forgotten. So keep walking, not because you're trying to make something happen, but because it already has. Keep walking, not with urgency, but with peace. Keep walking, not by sight, but by inner vision. The world may not yet reflect what you've seen, but that is not your concern. You are not moved by the delay. You are not shaken by the no. You have heard the yes. You have walked through the door. And now all of creation is catching up. And so, beloved, let this truth settle into your spirit. The door is already open, not by man's permission, but by divine authority. Not because of striving, but because you dared to believe. Your assumption has power. Your vision is sacred. Your inner agreement with the promise is the key that no hand can remove. Walk not by what you see, but by who you know yourself to be in spirit. For when you remain faithful to the end you have seen, the world must reshape itself to match your inner reality. Delay is not defeat. Rejection is not final, and the no of man cannot silence the yes of God. Keep walking. Keep knowing. Keep becoming. The door stands open, and no man can shut it. Hold on, God is still working. My friends, do not be deceived by appearances. You may look around and see no evidence. You may feel forgotten, delayed, or even forsaken. But I say to you now, hold on, for God is still working. The silence is not absence. The stillness is not abandonment. The delay is not denial. All creation begins in the unseen. The seed of your desire, once imagined, is already sown in the fertile ground of the infinite. Though you do not yet see its form, it is growing, expanding, reaching toward the appointed hour. Do not pluck it up with doubt. Do not kill it with impatience. You are not waiting on life. Life is responding to you. The moment you dare to assume your wish fulfilled, the gears of heaven turned in your favor. There is no outer circumstance, no delay, no how that can interfere with the power that has already said yes. The great I am in you is not bound by time. It works in secret, yet it never sleeps. It is always arranging, always drawing near, always aligning. When you hold firm to the end, when you persist in the knowing that it is done, you prove that your faith is not in what the eyes can see, but in what the heart has claimed. Even now, even here, beneath what seems like silence, the promise is unfolding. Every detour is a setup. Every challenge, a sculptor's tool. Nothing is wasted. Every moment is working toward the fulfillment of what you dared to believe. So hold on, not with clenched fists, but with quiet trust. Do not beg the power. Assume it is already yours. Walk in that knowing. Live from the end. Speak as though it were already a fact. Feel it real. And the world must mirror your conviction. You are not waiting on a miracle. You are the channel through which the miracle enters this world. So when doubt knocks, when fear whispers, when logic says it's too late, remember this: God is still working. The promise is alive, and the unseen hand is never still. Hold on. It is already yours. What you see with the natural eye is but a shadow, a reflection of the deeper invisible world. The world of form, the world of touch, sound, and sight is nothing more than an echo of the unseen. Everything that appears did not begin with matter. It began in the invisible realm of consciousness. It began with a thought, a feeling, an idea clothed in belief. And so to trust only in what you can touch is to live as one asleep, mistaking the dream for the dreamer. The unseen is real. In fact, it is more real than what you see, for it is the cause. The visible world is the result. It is the print left by the foot, but not the foot itself. And the foot, what you might call the spiritual substance, is your awareness, your imagination, your inner conviction. What you cannot yet see but have accepted in consciousness is already shaping into form. If you understood this, truly you would never again beg life to change. You would never chase the future or fight the moment. Instead, you would go inward, where the real work happens. you would remember that all power is housed in the unseen realm of imagination. There is a creative power in you, and it is not separate from what we call God. It is the I am presence, that which says I am rich, and so becomes it. That which says I am healed, and so embodies it. But this power does not move by force. It moves by faith, by assumption, by feeling, by quiet knowing. It is tempting, especially in moments of lack, to measure life by what the senses report, to look around and say, there is no change, or it isn't working. But the senses are only messengers of the past. They report on yesterday's belief. To trust them is to trust a map drawn by memory, not vision. So many abandon the promise because they cannot yet see the fruit. But the fruit takes time. First comes the root, and the root is always hidden. You would not dig up a seed the day after planting it, simply because you see no sprout. You understand that growth begins in darkness. So why do you doubt your inner work? Why do you question the process of creation when nothing has yet appeared? The tree knows better. The flower trusts the sun. The stars do not rush their rising. You must come to honor the unseen as sacred. Every time you imagine lovingly, you are creating. Every time you assume something true of yourself, you are commanding form. The moment you enter the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the unseen goes to work. You may not hear it. You may not see it, that you must know it is happening. This is the invitation to believe without needing proof, to walk in faith while the world still reflects the opposite, to persist not with force, but with stillness, not with panic, but with inner assurance. The unseen is not a maybe, it is not abstract, it is the blueprint, and it is governed by law. What you accept as true inwardly must eventually express outwardly. There is no exception to this principle. You are not a beggar at the gate of destiny. You are the dreamer, and the dream responds to you. The kingdom is within, and the doors to that kingdom open through the unseen channels of imagination, faith, and assumption. So train your inner eye. Turn away from the evidence of delay. Don't be fooled by the silence. The seed is growing, the ground is shifting, the promise is being fulfilled even now, behind the veil. Trust what cannot yet be touched, for it is there the real substance lives. The unseen is not a fantasy. It is the cause, and the cause is always greater than the effect. And that cause, dear friend, is your assumption. What is assumption? It is not wishful thinking. It is not repeating empty affirmations or hoping the universe will toss you a miracle. Assumption is an inner act. It is the deliberate occupancy of the state desired. It is claiming as fact what the senses have not yet confirmed. It is standing in the end, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, regardless of what the world says. Assumption is the bridge. It is the invisible link between the unseen and the seen. It is the permission slip you give to reality to reflect your inner state. The moment you assume something to be true of yourself, truly feel it and accept it without argument, you have sent forth a command into the field of creation. That command must be obeyed. This is not a maybe. This is not superstition. This is law. What you assume to be true, you will experience. The world is a mirror, and it does not reflect your wishes or your words. It reflects your assumptions. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are conscious of being. You cannot long hold the assumption of poverty and live in wealth. You cannot cling to the identity of the rejected and expect to be chosen. You cannot dwell in its not working and experience manifestation. The law does not bend to desperation. It responds to inner acceptance. And here is the beauty of it. The world does not need to change first. Nothing on the outside must shift before you assume the state you desire. You can do it now, right now. In this breath, in this moment, you can move into the feeling of your fulfilled desire. You can wear it like a garment. You can live from it before a single thing is changed. And when you do, the changes will come. The evidence will follow. The outer must rearrange itself to reflect the new assumption. Assume what you desire, not as a dream, but as a fact. Speak from it. Feel from it. Think from it. Not toward it, but from it. There is a vast difference. Hoping is passive. Assuming is creative. You may say, but I've assumed and nothing happened. Then I say to you, did you truly assume? Or did you visit the state like a tourist, only to retreat when the world didn't instantly comply. Assumption is not a momentary mood. It is a sustained inner knowing. It is dwelling, not peaking. It is living in the end, not glancing at it. Every time you return to the old story of lack, of fear, of delay, you pull the energy back into the former state. But every time you persist in the new assumption, despite appearances, you water the seed. You anchor the truth. You affirm the power of the unseen. There is no need to force the outer world. You do not chase change. You embody it. You assume the role inwardly and let light follow your lead. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the engine. When you feel it is done, your body may not yet know, your eyes may not yet see, but your world is already shifting. This is how miracles happen, not from begging but from assuming, not from hope but from knowing. The unseen world answers to the one who dares to dwell in the new state before it is visible. So the real question is never when will it come. The real question is, am I living in the assumption that it is already here? Because if you are, it must come. It has no choice. You do not need to know how. The how is not your job. You are the dreamer. You are the one who moves within. The how belongs to the law. It belongs to the unseen forces that respond to your state of being. Assume it, live it, be it, and watch the world rise to meet you. There is a great temptation to measure the progress of a desire by how quickly it shows up in the outer world. Many give up not because their assumption is untrue, but because the results are not immediate. They confuse delay with denial, and so they abandon the vision right as the tide begins to turn. But let this be clearly understood. A delay is not a no. A pause is not a rejection. Time is not your enemy. Time is the unfolding of your own inner state into visible form. Just because you have not yet seen the manifestation does not mean the process has not begun. Consider the seed planted beneath the soil. When you first drop it into the earth, there is no movement visible to the eye. You water it. You wait. Days may pass, perhaps even weeks, before the first green shoots push through the surface. But does that mean nothing was happening? Quite the contrary. The moment the seed touched the soil, life began moving. The ground was working. The roots were forming. The pattern of the tree was already encoded in that silent moment of planting. So it is with your desire. The moment you assumed it, truly assumed it, it was planted in the fertile field of the subconscious. And the subconscious is always faithful. It never forgets a seed. It never loses track of a command. It does not ask how long or is this possible. It only receives the impression and then sets the process in motion. The delay you perceive is not an absence of movement. It is the quiet, sacred unfolding of the promise. You must learn to live above the concept of time. You must rise into a consciousness where inner truth is not dependent upon outer evidence. If you have truly received the end in consciousness, then it is done. Whether it takes a day or a decade is irrelevant, for you are already dwelling in the state of fulfillment. That fulfillment is not measured by how fast the world moves. It is measured by the depth of your conviction. Every so-called delay is actually a form of alignment. You are being prepared. Your environment is being shaped. Invisible doors are being constructed behind the curtain of time. The human mind, limited by the senses, sees only the pause, but the spiritual eye sees orchestration. The wise do not rush the promise. They rest in it. They know the moment they assumed the state, it became real. Time is only the stage on which the invisible truth plays out. When you feel discouraged by the wait, return to the inner scene. Revisit your assumption. Feel it more deeply. Embody it more fully. Persist in it more faithfully. For that is how you honor the law. That is how you remain aligned with the creative power that responds to the inner man, not the outer cry. You may not realize it, but every delay is testing the strength of your inner eye. It is asking you to choose again. Will you continue to dwell in the truth you've assumed, or will you revert to the old story? Simply because the evidence hasn't yet appeared. This is the sacred tension between the invisible and the visible. And in that space of seeming stillness, the whole of life is deciding how to move in your favor. Those who collapse under delay often miss the miracle by inches. They uproot the seed with doubt. They return to begging. They say, I believed, but it didn't happen. Not realizing that the very act of abandoning belief is what broke the chain. You must hold firm, not as a form of force, but as a form of knowing. Though I do not yet see it, I know it is mine. That is the language of those who understand. There is nothing lost in delay. If your assumption remains alive, if the state lives in you, then life must bring you into harmony with it. Do not look at the clock. Do not check the mirror of the outer world every hour to see if it has responded. That kind of vigilance betrays fear. True faith knows the outcome is already settled. It no longer watches for the result. It lives from it. And that brings us to the great key. To live from the end, this is the secret buried in every miracle. This is the golden thread that runs through all true creation. To live from the end is to act, think, feel, and dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled, before it has shown up in the world of senses. It is not hoping. It is not waiting. It is being. When you live from the end, you make the unseen state your dwelling place. You think as the person who already has the thing. You walk as though it were done. You speak not as one who is asking, but as one who has received. And by doing so, you give the subconscious its instruction. You impress upon it the image of fulfillment. And because the subconscious only responds to what you feel is real, it begins to shape the world around you to match that feeling. Do not confuse this with pretending. Pretending still holds within it the belief that the desire is not yet real. Pretending says, I will act as if I have it, while inwardly confessing that it is still missing. But to live from the end is different. It is to know it is done. It is to have seen the end in imagination, so clearly, so vividly, that the body and mind begin to respond as though it were already true. This is the difference between waiting for a thing and becoming it. Waiting is passive. It implies lack. It keeps you in a state of not having, but becoming is active. It is inner movement. It is a shift in identity. You no longer identify with the seeker. You identify with the one who is already found. If your desire is to be wealthy, then live from the state of wealth. Feel yourself as one who already has abundance. How would you think? How would you walk? What would you expect from the world? Let those answers inform your inner dialogue. Let them shape your reaction. Let them build a new concept of self within you. If your desire is for healing, then live from the state of wholeness. Do not identify with the sickness. Do not speak from the pain. Instead, assume the state of the healed. Feel vitality. Speak strength. Dwell in the consciousness of well-being. And the body, being obedient to the mind, will respond. This is not delusion. It is creation. The world around you is only a reflection of your inner world. When you live from the end, you are not denying reality. You are reshaping it from its source. You are the cause. You are the beginning of every scene you will later walk through. And if you dare to dwell in the end, the middle will write itself. The bridge of incidents will form. The steps will arise. And all things necessary to bring you into alignment with that end will appear. But they will appear naturally, effortlessly, without strain. You will not need to push or chase. You will be led. You will be moved. And you will arrive. Not because you struggled to get there, but because you lived there long before it came into view. To live from the end is to embody the end. To walk in it. Not just during meditation, but in every moment. You wake in it. You fall asleep in it. You make decisions as though it were true. You let its vibration become your home. This is the true work. Not efforting in the outer world, but maintaining the inner state. And that work is done in stillness, in imagination, in silent agreement with the truth that already exists within you. If you can live from the end without wavering, without needing constant reassurance, without trying to control every step, then you will experience what others call impossible. You will witness the unseen become seen. You will watch mountains move, not because you shouted at them, but because you no longer acknowledge them as real. This is the path of the inner mystic, the conscious creator, the one who knows that the end is not something to reach, but something to dwell in. That feeling is the secret. That assumption is the power. That delay is just the hand of divine timing, adjusting the world to your inner truth. So if you do not yet see the result, do not fret. If the path seems unclear, do not worry. The delay is not a denial, and the end is already available. Go there in consciousness. Live there in imagination, and let the world catch up. For it must, it always does. To walk by faith is to walk by vision, but not the vision of the eyes. It is to lean on an inner knowing, a quiet conviction that what you have accepted in consciousness must express itself in form, regardless of what the outer world currently reports. This faith is not blind, it is creative. It is not a denial of reality, but a recognition of a deeper reality beneath the surface of things. It sees beyond what is and lays hold of what must be, because the soul has already claimed it. Appearances will often contradict the promise. They will come to test your stance, to challenge your inner authority. The outer world may scream delay, may flash signs of contradiction, may parade conditions entirely opposite to what you have inwardly affirmed. But if you are ruled by appearances, you will bend like the wind. You will shift with every circumstance and abandon your creative power to the opinions of men and the evidence of the five senses. You will become reactive, not generative. But if you choose faith, real, active faith, you stand still in the midst of chaos. You see the storm, yet you declare peace. You see the lack, yet you declare abundance. You see the delay, yet you declare it is done. And this is not madness, this is mastery. This is the mark of one who has seen the truth and will not come down from it. Faith is not a feeling that everything is easy. It is the unwavering posture that says, I believe it is done, even when nothing has changed. It is knowing that what you assume is planting itself in the soil of the world and must grow. It is trusting the invisible law of life more than you trust the temporary shadows of circumstance. To give more power to appearances than to your inner conviction is to serve two masters. You affirm one truth in silence and bow to another in panic. This double-mindedness will only produce delay, confusion, and frustration. But to walk in faith is to be single-eyed. It is to turn fully toward the promise and say, no matter what I see, I know what I have chosen. I know what I have felt, and I will not be moved. This is why the power lies in assuming the end and remaining faithful to it, even when the outer world suggests otherwise. It is easy to believe when things go your way. But true power is found when nothing changes and yet you remain unchanged. You are not moved by what appears because you know appearances are always behind the truth. They lag behind consciousness. They are the echo, not the voice. Faith sees what is unseen. It chooses to remain loyal to the inner vision. It does not argue with the senses. It does not fight the outer facts. It simply walks forward, knowing that what is felt and believed within will outpicture itself in time. And if you understand this, then you will stop reacting to every appearance. You will stop fearing every delay. You will no longer give in to panic when the facts do not yet match the state you've assumed. You will see appearances as paper tigers, loud perhaps, but powerless. You are not here to bow to conditions. You are here to create them. And you create them by holding your inner state steady, by persisting in the assumption, by knowing that your faith is not in vain. It is the very substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. When you truly believe that what you desire is yours now, the world begins to move. People, events, situations all shift around the axis of your inner conviction. And it often happens so naturally, so subtly, that the untrained eye may call it coincidence. But you will know better. You will recognize the pattern. You will trace the outer change to the moment of inner acceptance. And then you will no longer be afraid of appearances because you will have proven to yourself that they are but clay, shaped by your faith. But while your faith works, it does so in silence. This is the part so few understand. God, the I am within you, the power that creates reality, moves not with noise or thunder, but in stillness. The greatest changes often begin with no fanfare. The most significant shifts happen beneath the surface, quietly, invisibly. There is a divine intelligence at work. Always, it does not need to announce itself. It does not need your help, your panic, or your timelines. It moves in silence. And when you understand this, you stop trying to force the result. You stop asking when and how and through whom. You begin to trust the silence as part of the process. The stillness is not empty. It is filled with activity. You may not see the roots, but they are growing. You may not hear the machinery, but the foundation is being laid. The silence between the assumption and its manifestation is not void. It is gestation. It is creation taking form in a realm your eyes cannot reach. And if you break the silence with doubt, with worry, with disbelief, you interrupt the work. But if you honor it, if you treat that silence as sacred, you allow the fullness of the manifestation to bloom in perfect order. God works in silence because truth does not shout, power does not boast, creation is not loud. You were not created with noise. The stars did not thunder their birth. The rose does not scream as it opens. The most glorious acts of life unfold in deep quiet, in hidden chambers, in sacred stillness. You must come to love the silence. You must make peace with the gap between seed and fruit. In that gap, everything is being prepared. And it is your job to remain faithful. Not frantic, not restless, not impatient, but faithful. What if the silence was proof that it was working? What if the lack of outer movement was the very evidence that the inner power had taken your assumption and begun to shape the form? Would you still worry? Would you still waver? Learn to see the silence as confirmation. Know that the work is happening even when you cannot perceive it. Trust the unseen hand of God within you. The I am that takes no orders, needs no permission, and consults no man. It moves according to law. It brings forth what you've accepted, not by noise, not by pressure, but by perfect orchestration. The world may mock your stillness. It may say you're doing nothing, but you are doing the greatest work of all. You are believing, you are assuming, you are persisting. And that is the secret work that no eye sees, yet every life is built upon. There is no need to tell everyone what you're manifesting. The silence is your sanctuary. The inner world is your workshop. Keep the sacred things sacred. Protect the vision. Cherish the feeling. Let the silence be your confirmation, not your confusion. For God, the creative power in you, works in silence. And when it is finished, when all things are in place, the result will be seen, and it will seem sudden. But it was never sudden. It was silent. It was steady. It was inevitable. And that is why you hold on. That is why you remain still. That is why you choose faith over appearance. Because even when you see nothing, even when you hear nothing, God is still working. You have imagined, and now the seed is sown. Though the soil seems still, the roots have taken hold in the unseen. Do not look to the surface for signs, for the harvest does not first announce itself with a trumpet. It breaks through quietly, yet with force, shaped by the law that what you accept inwardly must express itself outwardly. This is not speculation, it is law. You may say, but I see nothing changing, and I tell you, that very statement is a confession of forgetfulness. The moment you imagined it, truly accepted it as real in your mind, it began. Not one moment is wasted in the unseen realm. All things are prepared in silence before they are shouted from the mountaintop of experience. The outer world may seem slow, but it is only reflecting what you dare to sustain inwardly. You must walk as if it is already yours, not with arrogance, but with quiet knowing. For when the inner man moves, the outer world bows to meet him. The universe, though it appears vast and impersonal, is, in truth, intimate and immediate. It hears your assumptions and moves mountains to honor them. But it does not always come in the way you expect. No, its genius lies in surprise, in the beautiful unfolding of what you could not plan. You may think it will come from the job, or the friend, or the letter in the mail, but it may come from a stranger's smile, a sudden meeting, a dream that whispers a solution. Do not try to force the channel. Do not say, it must come through this way or not at all. That is blindness. The power that shapes the stars knows no limits, and it will bring to you what you have accepted within, pressed down, shaken together, running over from places your mind could not imagine. You are not waiting on the universe is waiting on you, waiting for your full acceptance, your willingness to feel that what you desire is already so. And when that moment comes, when you dare to claim it and persist in that assumption, not even the passage of time can stop the return. What is yours by assumption is yours by right. The unseen hand is already arranging, moving, lifting, clearing the way. And when it comes, you will laugh, for you will say, had I known it would come like this, I would not have worried. But the journey was part of the blessing. The mystery was part of the magic. You are more powerful than you know, and what is yours is already on its way, not in the way you think, but in ways more perfect than you could ever plan. You may look around and see delay, resistance, or the absence of any visible change, and yet something far more potent is happening beneath what your eyes can detect. The moment you consented inwardly, the law began to work on your behalf. You need not repeat the command 1,000 times. It is not in the multitude of words, but in the feeling of certainty, the inner knowing, the sustained belief that the thing desired is already done. It is your consciousness that calls all things into form, and it is your assumption held faithfully that acts as the bridge between the invisible and the visible. You cannot beg, plead, or bargain with the universe, for it does not hear your words. It responds to your state of being. Are you dwelling in the state of lack, or are you living in the state of fulfilled desire, not once, not occasionally, but persistently? For every moment you return to the old state, doubting, fearing, rehearsing the absence, you give new life to the very thing you wish to escape. And yet, even this is forgiven, for the moment you shift, the whole world begins to rearrange itself again. What you are seeking does not come by force, it comes by surrender. Not surrender to circumstances, but surrender to the inner knowing that it is done. This is not passive resignation, this is active creation. To assume the wish fulfilled is to live from the end, to walk and speak and think as though it were already true. And in doing so you become magnetic, not by effort, but by alignment. All things then move to meet you, not because you chase them, but because they recognize you as their rightful owner. There is no power outside of consciousness. No condition has authority over the one who knows where the true power resides. You are not at the mercy of the world is at the mercy of your inner state. Stop giving your attention to appearances that contradict your desire. They are but shadows of previous assumptions. They have no real substance, and they must pass just as night must give way to dawn when the sun rises in your awareness. Do not concern yourself with the how. The mind always wants a map, a method, a step-by-step process, but this power does not operate by logic, it operates by law, and the law is simple. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Live in the end, dwell in the state that matches your desire. Everything else is details already being arranged in ways that will astonish you. Your only task is to remain faithful to the vision, undisturbed by facts or time. You may think, but I have imagined before and nothing came, and yet I say, nothing imagined with conviction is ever lost. Every assumption, when held in faith, is a seed, and no seed goes unfulfilled unless you dig it up with doubt. You may not have noticed the moment the tides began to turn, but turn they did. Life does not forget your declaration. The universe does not mock your desire. It returns to you exactly what you dare to claim. And if the vision is delayed, it is only that more perfect arrangements are being made. Sometimes the delay is not in the world, but in you. Sometimes you are still dancing between the old and the new, still telling the story of lack, still identifying with limitation. But the moment you drop that identity, truly drop it, the shift becomes immediate. You do not need years of striving to change. Change can come in an instant, the very instant you assume a new concept of yourself. For that is the secret. You are not changing things, you are changing you. And the world is only reflecting you back to yourself. There are those who will say, be realistic. But what is realism if not agreeing to the limitations of the senses? What is realism if not bowing to the evidence of the past? Your future is not born of facts, it is born of faith. The one who walks in imagination is never at the mercy of what is, because they know what is only a shadow of what was believed. Change the belief and the shadow must follow. Even now, even in this moment, you can choose a new reality. Not tomorrow, not when circumstances are perfect, but now. Close your eyes and step into the scene that implies your wish is already fulfilled. Feel it, touch it, breathe in that world as if it were more real than the one around you. And as you do, something shifts. Not out there, but in here, and that shift is everything. For once you change within, the outer world must bend to match. This is not fantasy, this is law. What you feel as true becomes true, not by accident, but by design. And the more natural your assumption becomes, the more inevitable the manifestation. Do not seek to control the outer, that is chasing shadows. Control the inner, and the outer must follow. That is the secret the world overlooks. Your imagination is the womb of reality. You will be repaid, yes, but not in the way you thought. For the universe repays not according to effort, but according to assumption. You may toil and sweat and strive for decades and still receive little if within you dwell in lack. But you may assume abundance, peace, love boldly without apology and receive in a week what others wait lifetimes for. Not because you are more deserving, but because you dared to claim it. That is the only qualification, belief. And when it comes, as it surely will, it will come dressed in ways you could not predict. The phone call you never expected, the opportunity that knocks without warning, the stranger who utters the very words you needed to hear. The world moves in mysterious precision to deliver your claim, and it is not your job to understand the choreography. Your only job is to remain in the state, unwavering, unshaken by appearances. There is no such thing as too late. Time cannot stop what is yours by divine right. Delay is not denial. Delay is often the disguise of perfection. If you only knew how intricately your desire is being prepared for you, how all things, even seeming setbacks, are playing a role, you would smile in the waiting. You would relax in the unknown. For the unknown is where the magic lives. Let others call it foolishness, let others scoff at the unseen. You will know by experience that what is imagined with faith becomes fact. You will have moments when you laugh in joy, not because of what has appeared, but because you remember that you are the cause and the world is the mirror. You cannot ask too much. You cannot dream too big. The limits are only those you place upon yourself. There is no virtue in smallness. Your birthright is abundance, in love, in joy, in peace, in wealth. But to receive it, you must become it. Not in pretense, but in true embodiment. You must feel it real until it becomes the most natural thing in the world. And when it does, you will not be surprised when it appears. You will say, of course. For it was already yours the moment you claimed it. The outer arrival was just the echo. The substance was in the assumption. Do not be dismayed by time. Time is only the servant of the eternal. The eternal is your imagination, and time bows to it. There are no delays in the realm of cause. The only delay is in your alignment. Return again and again to the end you desire. See it, feel it, live it within, and as you do, the bridge of incidents will unfold, often silently, often invisibly, but always faithfully. You may wake one morning, and everything looks the same, but something within will feel different. That is the sign. The shift has happened. The old man is gone. The new man has taken root. And from that point on, reality must obey. The characters may change, the scenes may rearrange, but the outcome is fixed, because you are fixed in the state of the wish fulfilled. And then the repayment comes, in ways that defy logic, in timing that humbles the intellect, in abundance that makes you weep, not from surprise, but from recognition. You will remember the moment you claimed it in silence. You will remember the moment you refused to let go. And you will understand that the real treasure was not in the thing received, but in the power realized. You will see the whole world differently, not as something to manipulate, but as something to reflect your inner world. And you will bless the delay. You will thank the process, because it brought you to this moment of awareness. And once you awaken to it, you can never return to the old way of thinking. You will never again plead with the world, for you will know the world is not the source, you are. The world is not the authority, you are. The world is not the gatekeeper, you are. And from that knowing, you live freely. You give generously. You walk lightly, for you are no longer bound by circumstance. You are moved only by vision, sustained only by faith, guided only by the silent whisper of your imagination. And it leads you, always perfectly, to the unfolding of your highest good. Even when the senses scream otherwise, even when the outer world offers no hint that anything has changed, you must hold fast to the unseen reality you have claimed within. That is the test, and that is also the triumph. To stand in the midst of lack and declare abundance, to walk through the shadows while affirming the light, this is not fantasy, this is mastery. This is the power given to you the moment you dared to imagine a new state of being and accept it as your truth. You are not required to explain it to others. They may not understand, and that is fine. They have not seen what you have seen in the secret place. They did not feel what you felt when you assumed your desire to be real. And so they will speak from their level of awareness, from their reliance on facts and history. But you have stepped into a greater dimension. You have learned the difference between truth and appearance. And because you live from that truth, the world has no choice but to bend. There will be moments when doubt knocks at the door. That is natural. It is the echo of old conditioning. But you must not let it in. You must not entertain it like an honored guest. Instead, return instantly to the state of your fulfilled desire. Dwell there. Speak from it. Feel it, not as a hope, but as a fact. And the longer you live from that inner place, the more natural it becomes, the more solid, the more undeniable. Eventually, the world outside must conform, not because you forced it, but because you became it. You see, the universe does not reward effort, it responds to identity. And identity is formed by assumption. If you believe you are lacking, striving, hoping, then all your efforts will mirror that belief. But when you assume you are already that which you desire to be, without a shred of physical evidence, you activate the creative principle in its purest form. You are no longer pushing reality, you are radiating it. It matters not how improbable your desire may seem. It matters not how long you have lived in the old story. In the eternal now, transformation is always available. You can rewrite your entire world by changing your inner concept. One assumption held in faith is worth more than years of external labor. For once the cause is changed, the effect must follow. That is the law, and it never fails. And so you walk through your days in quiet confidence, not because everything is perfect, but because you are aligned. You do not beg reality to change, you simply declare that it already has, and move as though it were so. You greet each moment not with fear, but with expectancy, knowing that the universe is always responding, always reflecting, always orchestrating, the scene that matches your innermost self-concept. And in the waiting, you are tempted to worry. Remind yourself the bridge is being built. Every event, every conversation, every coincidence is part of the path. You may not see the full picture, but you don't need to. You only need to persist in the assumption your inner conviction is enough. The how, the when, the through whom, those are not your concern. Leave that to the intelligence that governs the stars. It knows your desire, and it knows the most elegant path to bring it into form. You must become familiar with the feeling of fulfillment. Live in it as though it were your home, because it is your home. The more you dwell there, the more you carry that frequency into every room, every conversation, every moment. You shift timelines by shifting identity. You collapse delays by refusing to doubt. There is no effort required to become who you already are. There is only the releasing of resistance, the shedding of the old story, and the willingness to stand in your new reality, even when the evidence is yet unseen. And that is when the miracles begin. Not because you earned them, but because you aligned with them. Not because you forced the world to change, but because you changed, and the world could not help but reflect it. And these miracles will come quietly at first, whispers, nudges, subtle shifts, but soon they will crescendo into events that no logic could have orchestrated. That is the beauty of it. It is not your task to force the orchestra to play. It is your task to assume the music has already begun and move to its rhythm. Do not speak of your desire as something far off. Speak of it as something real and present. When you talk about it, talk from it. Do not say, I hope to have it one day. Say instead, I am grateful that it is mine. This is not delusion, this is creation. This is how the invisible becomes visible. The word, the feeling, the mental image, all of these are tools, sacred instruments through which the infinite expresses itself. Use them with purpose, use them with joy, use them to build your world. And when the people around you ask, how did you do it? You will not be able to give them a formula. You will simply say, I saw it within and walked in it before the world saw it without. That is the secret. The world is not your enemy, it is your mirror. It does not withhold, it reflects. The moment you assume a new state, the world begins to reflect that state back to you. Not always instantly, but always inevitably. And so if you want to change your life, do not fight the world. Change the conception of yourself. Dare to believe that you already are what you desire to be. Let that belief take root and persist in it through every season. Yes, storms may come, winds may shake the branches, but if your roots are deep in the truth of your fulfilled desire, nothing can uproot you. You will stand firm until the fruit appears, ripe and undeniable. It is a sacred thing, this power within you. It is not a tool to be used lightly, nor a game to be played with half-hearted intent. It is the same power that said, let there be light, and there was light. And it has been given to you, not to abuse, but to align with. When you use it in love, in faith, in boldness, the results are inevitable. You begin to live in a state of grace where all things work together for your good. And yet, even in your moments of forgetfulness, the law does not punish. It simply reflects. If you slip into fear, you will see fear. If you shift back to lack, you will meet lack. But the moment you return to the higher state, reality follows. There is no condemnation, only reflection. And this means that redemption is always available. Change is never more than one assumption away. You have not come this far to give up at the sight of temporary shadows. You have not awakened to truth only to bow to appearances. You are here to remember, again and again, that you are the operant power, that what you feel within, you bring forth, that the universe is your servant, not your master. It waits on your instruction, not your hesitation. It moves according to your inner vision, not your outer circumstances. And yes, it is coming, not as a result of striving, but as a result of being, not because you begged, but because you believed. It is coming in forms that will make you gasp, in timing that will humble your old ideas of control, in blessings that will wash over you like rain after drought. You will not need to chase it, you will not need to cling to it, you will simply receive, because you have already accepted. You are not a beggar in this universe. You are not a pawn of fate. You are the author, the dreamer, the one who speaks things into being and sees them appear. And as you deepen in this knowing, the world transforms before your very eyes, not because the world changed, but because you did. And so, let others wonder, let others watch. You will know what they cannot yet see, that the most powerful force in the universe is assumption held in faith, that what you embody within, you attract without, that the reward always comes not as the world gives, but as the Lord decrees, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, in ways you never expected, but in ways that leave no doubt that it was always yours. And when it comes, when that long-held vision stands before you, clothed in flesh, shaped in form, radiant in reality, you will not feel surprise, you will feel recognition. You will say, of course, because deep within you had already lived this moment 100 times. You had rehearsed its presence, embraced its nearness, touched it in the silence of your own imagination. The world will call it a miracle, but you will call it fulfillment. Fulfillment of the words spoken in stillness. Fulfillment of the seed planted in the invisible. Fulfillment of the truth that was always more real than any passing fact. You begin to see that it was never about the thing itself, never about the relationship, the money, the healing, the opportunity. Those were simply mirrors, reflections of who you chose to be in consciousness. And now that you have claimed your power, you realize you could be, do, or have anything. Not because of privilege, not because of luck, but because you are the one who assumes. You are the one who decides. And the moment you accept that identity without compromise, the world becomes your canvas. You look back, not with regret, but with understanding. Even the delays were a gift. Even the obstacles were refining you, pressing you deeper into conviction, forcing you to release dependency on what is seen and trust in what is felt. You learn to walk by inner vision, not by outer sight. And that, more than the outcome, is the true treasure. You have remembered who you are. And now you walk differently. You carry the stillness of knowing. You do not rush to fix, to chase, to strive. You dwell in the state and let the world catch up. You no longer demand that others validate your dream. You no longer need signs and confirmations to believe. Your belief is the sign. Your faith is the confirmation. You hold your inner reality with reverence, for you know that it is holy ground. Every thought a seed, every feeling a decree. You have tasted the power of assumption, and you are no longer willing to live beneath your inheritance. You no longer speak of lack or impossibility or waiting for the perfect moment. You are the perfect moment. You are the one the world has been waiting for. You no longer ask, when will it come? You say, it is already here, and you watch as reality aligns itself to match that bold claim. Now understand that your only real work is to maintain the state, to return again and again to the end, to refuse to entertain lesser thoughts, to forgive the old identity, not by wrestling with it, but by no longer feeding it. The more you embody your new self, the less power the old story has. It fades, not because you... And there is no need to explain this process to others. Many will not understand. They will still be hypnotized by facts, still convinced that outer change must precede inner change. But you will smile gently. You will bless them, not with words, but with presence. And perhaps in time, your life will serve as their invitation, a quiet reminder that reality bends for the one who dares to assume. There is no more fear of loss, because you know nothing can be lost that is held in consciousness. There is no more desperation, because you understand that everything flows from within. Even when appearances contradict your desire, you do not panic. You remain still. You speak as one who has. You walk as one who knows. You rest in the awareness that it is done, and from that rest, creation flows. You don't need to scream at the mountain. You whisper and it moves. You don't need to beg the heavens. You declare, and the heavens respond. You don't need to force outcomes. You embody the state, and the outcomes unfold. This is the power you were born with. Not to be used once in desperation, but to be lived daily, silently, consistently. And it is so much simpler than the world has taught. It does not require rituals or effort or years of struggle. It requires willingness. Willingness to believe, to receive, to persist in the unseen until it becomes seen. Willingness to abandon the familiar if it no longer serves the future you are becoming. Willingness to say, I am, even when the evidence says you are not. Now, as you move deeper into this way of being, you begin to feel light, unburdened. There is no pressure, because you know that nothing you truly desire is outside of you. You are not trying to get. You are simply letting the world reflect what you have already accepted. And if it does not appear today, you do not waver. You know that the law is always working. You know that every assumption is a command. You know that the universe is faithful to what you feel as real. You become gentle with yourself. You do not judge the moments when you falter. You return to the state, you remember the truth, you practice the feeling, and with every return, the new state becomes more solid, more familiar, more real than anything else, until one day you wake up and your world looks exactly like the one you once only saw within. And then you dream again, you expand again, you assume again. For there is no end to creation, no ceiling to imagination. You have tasted your power, and you will never again settle for a life built on circumstance. You will build it from within, brick by invisible brick, scene by imagined scene, until the whole world reflects the masterpiece you carry in your heart. So now, walk forward, not in hesitation, but in boldness. You know now that creation is not out there, it begins within. Every fulfilled dream, every manifested desire, every unexpected blessing is simply a mirror of the assumption you held with unwavering conviction. The world is not the cause of your life, it is the effect. And you are no longer waiting for things to change. Let the others strive, let them chase outcomes and call it progress. You have discovered a higher way. You have remembered that your imagination is not fiction, it is the sacred script of reality. You no longer ask if the universe will repay you. You know it must. For what you assume with feeling and persist in with faith must unfold, not always in the way you expect, but always in the way that blesses you beyond measure. And when it does, when life begins to overflow with the very essence of your assumption, stand still and give thanks. Not because you are surprised, but because you are aware. Aware that everything came from within, aware that you are the operant power, aware that you no longer live in reaction, but in creation. This is your inheritance. This is your truth. The universe has heard you, it has moved, it is delivering, not because you pleaded, but because you believed. And now it is done. Walk in it, feel it, live it, for the world is simply rising to meet the reality you have already claimed.